For the second time in a decade, the Florida House will be led next by a speaker from South Florida. Speaker-designate Daniel Perez, our Miami-Dade, takes the gavel in 2024, and this week was officially designated in a ceremony at the Capitol. When he does, he will have the Republican majority in the House to advance his agenda. What that agenda will be and what the governing culture he will foster or maybe demand is just a few of the questions for Speaker-designate Danny Perez live with us today. Good morning and congratulations.
Glenna, thank you so much. Good morning to you and to the rest of your viewers, but thank you for the congratulatory message. It's an honor for me, my family, my friends, but really for the entire Miami community.
I know, and I will say that because we've been in Tallahassee covering a lot of things, and politics aside, you are very well respected and beloved by people on both sides of the aisle. And so it'll be a really great 2 years. 24 to 26, it's a long way away, but unlike we in news who do things day to day, you plan a lot further ahead. So I want to get a sense of when you take this gavel, you expect the state to get a little extra, this part of the state, to get a little extra juice from state government?
Well, look, I might get faulted for it far too often, but I'm a Miami guy. This is where I grew up. This is where I work. This is where I'm raising my children. This is home. And I want to make sure that we take care of Miami-Dade, but really the South Florida community. And now's our time to do it. So Glenna, something that is actually super fun for me, I still keep a walk list of my constituents in my car. And now, obviously, the schedule is pretty tight. I probably do it every 4 weeks or so. But I still knock on doors just to get my finger on the pulse a little bit more on the issues. And in doing so is how we kind of roll out our agenda over the next several years. And I'm sure we'll get into it here, but I'm still hearing property insurance at the doors. I'm feeling property insurance personally in my home that I'm in right now. So yes, we will focus on Miami-Dade County moving forward.
I watched your speech. I heard you say that. I do want to talk a little bit about property insurance, what has gone and what is to come. But I want to sort of get a more of an overview. Talk about some things that you said in your speech at the designation ceremony. But first, is there an agenda yet? Is that fair? Do you have the start? Do you have a pad where you're starting to build an agenda for the following next session?
So Glenna, as you know, I don't start until November of 2024 as a Speaker of the House. Currently, I'm the Speaker designate. Yeah. So over the next 12 months, we'll continue to focus on Speaker Renner's priorities, which he's done a phenomenal job as Speaker in Tallahassee. He's been able to tackle affordable housing, workforce housing, education, especially here in Miami-Dade County. I think a huge win for me and the delegation from Miami-Dade County, and by the way, in a bipartisan manner, was making sure that our students receive more money than ever before in the history of the county. Every student here in our county is receiving more funds today than they were a year ago. We've also been able to tackle property insurance, and we'll continue to do that agenda. But at the same time, Glenna, you're right. I do have my own priorities. We'll continue the property insurance conversation. We have to until we find a solution. We'll fight inflation as best we can on a state level. And then the last one, which is a little personal to me, it's not such a popular issue, but for me, it's at the top of my list, is making sure that people with developmental disabilities, people with autism, making sure that they have the necessary healthcare coverage for them, which today sometimes doesn't exist because there is a wait list that happens in today's society.
So does that mean that you would consider what past governments have not in this state as Medicaid expansion?
It's not necessarily Medicaid expansion. I would assimilate this to what Speaker Sprowls did about 1.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. If you remember, we were having issues with women who were giving birth, and after 3 months, the state wasn't extending their healthcare coverage. And then we were having complicated issues, and so we extended their healthcare coverage to about 12 months. And that was a big win. And again, in a bipartisan manner, which is what I love about Tallahassee, Glenna. I'm a Miami guy. I grew up here. I went to high school here, but Tallahassee is a special place. I mean, we really do focus on things in a different way than most governments. But my point is, we did that for women that were struggling with healthcare coverage a couple years ago. And I would like to do the same for people with special needs. I think we have to look at how we can move the needle. It's not about the exact funds that are being used and increasing the funds. Sometimes it's about the way we go about providing the healthcare services. For example, we just initiated a pilot program here in Miami-Dade County that we just passed in the last session. session, which is going to move the healthcare program from a fee-for-service model to a managed care model. Again, it's a pilot program, but we're trying to extend our services a little bit more than we can today with the same amount of funds. And if it works, we can roll it out to the entire state.
I know mental health is going to continue to be much more of a focus. We saw it this past session. We see it in the upcoming session already. Mr. Speaker Designate, I want to ask you about some of the things that you said in your speech on Monday. You said, members, we are in danger of becoming a conveyor belt. What did you mean by that?
I don't want the rubber stamp. I don't, Glenna. I don't. You have to remember, we're a part-time legislator, so we all have normal jobs. We all spend most of our time in our districts. When we go up there, we have to be laser focused on what the real issues are. And if you continue to listen to the speech, I talk about asking the members that if they have something to say, make sure it's unique. Make sure it's something that really matters. Make sure it's something that is really going to make a positive change in your communities. The rubber stamp model, the model of only submitting a bill because it's what's important to a special interest group, scratch that for a second. Get on the road, knock on the doors, get into your homes. You're in Miami, have the Cuban cafecito, and really think about it. Is this going to change the lives of my constituents for the better? I don't want the conveyor belt where people go up there, they get a rubber stamp, they submit a bill, it gets filed, it passes, gets signed by the governor. Have you really changed anything? If the answer to that is no, then those bills have to get cut out. We can't be doing those.
So that's interesting. So let's apply that to property insurance, because the raft of bills that passed for property insurance, my understanding anyway, was that it was really focused on righting the market so that insurers would come in with the thought being that competition would happen and prices would go lower. But it really did nothing to lower prices at all. In fact, they're still going up, as you know, because you hear from your constituents. But those bills passed with huge participation from the insurance industry. And I think some lawmakers have told me, well, that's how we learn. We learn from the lobbyists. I know a lot of people think lobbying is a bad word, but lobbyists really are in a position of educating lawmakers. And then there are the political contributions from these. So apply that, not a conveyor belt, to that real life process of lawmakers needing to learn things from the industries they're addressing.
But I've been in the House for 6 years. Every year we have a conversation about property insurance. The truth, every solution we have applied hasn't solved the solution yet. We are still working on it. I am just as frustrated as every constituent. 120% is what my homeowner's insurance went up. I get it. I get it. Here's what I like to point out. When we passed the last bill, we expected about 18 to 24 months before we saw the fruits of our labor on that specific policy. 2 weeks ago, I sat with one of our carriers in the state of Florida that's been here from before, not one of the newer ones, because Glenna, there are two companies that are on the way in. There are conversations that are happening on that. But I sat with them and I said, hey, the policy that we passed on insurance reform, are you starting to see the changes? Can I tell my constituents there's a light at the end of the tunnel? And they said, actually, yes. The answer is yes. We are expected to see it actually within 12 months, which would probably be around June or July of next year. And I said, what does that mean? Are rates going to go down? I mean, what does that really mean? Because I got to be able to relay this message. And they said the increases were happening at 13% at best. They said, as of right now, we're expecting those increases to go to about 6% by next June or July. So at least we're trending in the right direction. Again, Glenna, not the solution in totality. There's still a lot that needs to be done. My greatest concern right now, and this is you and I, Glenn, this is you and I talking. My greatest concern right now, look, Miami, we're such a family-oriented community. We care about our culture. We care about our friends. We care about our neighbors. I am seeing people have to choose between staying in Miami to be with their family and friends, but have to find a way to make those extra dollars to pay for their homeowner's insurance.
Yeah, 100%.
Things and move somewhere else. It's insane.
We report on those people, 100%. Mr. Speaker Designate, can you just sit tight? Let us take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back with more. We are back with State Rep and now Speaker Designate for 24 through 26, Daniel Perez of Miami-Dade. May I call you Danny for the next 6 minutes, like usual?
That's a deal. That's a deal.
Okay. So you said something before that it really kind of piqued my interest that I want to go back to. And I think you are right when you say, I've seen this in Tallahassee, that there is a lot of bipartisanship that goes on in the halls and in the Capitol. I think a lot of people on the streets don't see that because especially lately, the oxygen is sucked out of the room by a lot of very big, controversial, and very partisan bills. And so I want to kind of talk about that for a moment, because in the last session, the last two sessions, we've seen a Republican supermajority all but ignore the Democrats on those kind of what people call culture war bills. I mean, rafts of amendments to certain bills that were ignored. And you hear that frustration in the minority party. So I was wondering, with that kind of spirit, when we go into this coming session with Speaker Renner and then yours, is there an eye toward kind of clearing that air and bringing back the collaborative atmosphere that there once was?
Yeah, Glenna, look, when people bring up the culture wars or the social wars, I'm very quick to fight back on the definition, and I'm going to explain to you why. When we passed a bill that had to do with parental rights, which you're very aware of because you and I have spoken about it, and you're a smart woman that gets the issues. When we talk about parental rights and not teaching children, which started with kinder through third and then extended through high school, about sexual orientation or gender identity without a parent knowing of that conversation between the student and a teacher or a school administrator, I don't consider that culture war, social warfare. I consider that parental right and just making sure that a parent understands what conversations a child is having in school between the ages of 3 all the way to high school. And so that's where I separate them, because I don't consider it the same way as many people do. But to go a little further in your question, Glenna, what's most important to me, and I've been consistent with this from day one, and we've mentioned on the show, what's been most important to me is making sure that we actually have the conversations, the debate in committee and on the floor on issues that really matter and that are going to change people's lives in a bipartisan way. We've spoken about this with Fentress Driscoll, who's going to be the minority leader. She's the minority leader today. We've spoken about that for the next several years, and she's a friend of mine. So it's something where we understand the priorities, and the priorities here, quite frankly, are still property insurance. But I hope that answers your question.
It kind of does. I guess, like Fentress Driscoll, I think what she said is, okay, well, let's wait and see. And so I think for a lot of things, we have to do that because we're more than a year away. But I think culture wars is I guess a headline. I don't want to get lost in the semantics, but I want to hear you address one thing that you won't have to contend with in your tenure is a governor running for president and looking for the support to pave that way. Is that going to be a big deal?
The governor has actually been a friend. The governor has done a phenomenal job of putting Florida in the position that we're in today, with low unemployment, with an economy that's boosting. But at the same time, I have mentioned this, there is no body closer to the people than the legislature. And that's the reason that the founding fathers asked for the legislature to exist and eventually created it. We are the body directly connected to the constituents. And we are the ones that make the laws. Do we work hand in hand with the governor? Absolutely. And he's been a friend. But there is a difference between the governor's office and the legislature. And it's our job to make sure that we create the right laws that are going to impact the people where it's most needed. And so as we kind of move over the next couple of years, it'll obviously change depending on what the presidential election looks like. I mean, we could have a Jeanette Nunez, Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez in the role as governor. We can have Ron DeSantis in the role as governor. We don't know yet what that's going to look like, but I do want to make sure that the members understand it is our job to create the laws and to work together with the governor. And I'm excited to do that together with my colleagues. We have great talent in Tallahassee, Glenn, and because you go up and you talk to them, but you can go down almost any office, and there is someone in an office that actually has a real skill set to help Florida. I'm excited to see what they hold together over the next several years.
Before we run out of time, and it's about a minute, so this is going to be one of those TV answers for you. The Live Local Act, we had Senate President Kathleen Passidomo was here. We've talked a lot about that, addressing affordable housing crisis, a vast bill that has a lot of interesting components, but the one thing that has become problematic to local mayors was the fact that it gives developers tools that preempts, in some cases, local decisions. You are a local guy. You've talked about, you're a man in the streets. What do you think about, will this need a tweaking before this really becomes problematic for local zoning?
So I've spoken with President Pasadomo about this, actually, specifically on this issue. So it's actually a great question. There are other conversations that are being had right now, and eventually will be put into a committee on making sure that the details of the Live Local Act, if it needs any fixes, that people are going to be able to have the opportunity to put their input into whatever next version exists. We're lucky we're going to have Senator Pasadomo with us, Senate President Pasadomo with us for several years, and she's a figurehead in this world. And so she said it herself, she's not done. And we're not done in the House either. We're going to continue to work together to see what fixes we can do to make it easier for people to implement the Live Local Act. When we talk about Live Local, we keep talking about affordable housing. I also like to talk about workforce housing. Going back to what my greatest concerns are, which is people, I'm a young guy, I'm 36 years old, people of my generation having to pick up and move to another state because they can't start their lives here. That's a concern of mine, and workforce housing is going to help with it.
100%. And affordable just means affordable. I don't know how that ever came to mean anything but we got to afford it, right? Speaker Designate Danny Perez, great to have you with us on your week of designation. Congratulations again, and we'll see you right back here pretty soon.
Thank you, Glenna, and thank you for everything you do. It's important that your viewers get an opportunity to get to meet us. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you back. Thanks.